This goes out to all you men out there who are inclined to submit yourself to the lowest faculties in the most pathetic manner. You effeminate man think you were created in order to consume endless amount of pleasure without any consequences? Put your damn video games and smartphones down and pick up something heavy. Do something arduous for once. Pray daily. Submit yourself under the interior discipline. Learn a trade. Buy some land. Get married and have lots of kids so that may you one day raise a generation of virtuous warriors. Learn the rules of the retrograde. Done with y'all.
What is going on? That's usually a show ending. Like that's like how we end the show typically, but I don't know. Figured I'd switch it up.
It's kind of a good intro. I'm not gonna lie.
I kind of like it. It's pretty good. What's up? What's going on, Nicholas?
It's going. Just living life.
We missed you last night. Last night was a weird one, man. We had Michael Hitchborn and Father Nick's on, and the beginning of like the first hour of the show just became like a Pope Francis bash fest. Like,
oh, really?
I never feel comfortable with those, man. Like, I don't know. It's I just have that Catholic instinct to just not. I don't know. It was a weird one, but I had to let the conversation go where it went. So, yeah. So there was like a midpoint where I was like, let's just change topics. We just switched it over to the pro-life conversation. The second half of that show was phenomenal though, because it got into some interesting topics, talking about like what did we talk about? Social engineering and technology and stuff like that. Wound up being good in the end. If anybody made it to the I can't force the man to talk. I can't force him to talk. Anytime I see him start to, I shut up. It's just he's quiet. I don't know. So we got some topics tonight. Before we get started, let me actually check how far away from 500 we are. Let's see. We are.
Yeah, you guys should be like only like probably like 20 away or something.
20 away.
20, 30 away.
We're 20 away from 500 on locals. I shot Nick and Rob a text at I think 4:45 today, about an hour and a half ago, and I'm like, anybody want to stream tonight? I got some political commentary I want to get into. Nick said yes. Rob has plans, so here we are.
R.I.P.
What? First off, okay, there's a bunch of things going on right now. Did you figure out the show notes and WhatsApp? Or are you still playing around with that?
Still playing a little bit around with it, but I think I might have a way of figuring it out. This is what happened, Joe, when Rob's not here. Rob abandons us. He abandons us for his family. Right? Family. What?
Yeah, what is he thinking? I might be able to do it on mine. For like the stories and stuff, I could do it on mine. I'm talking about the video. Like if you could do the video, because I can't get the audio to play through on the video. But if I go to, so we do have stories that I could bring up and stuff. Let me just see. The Tenant Media story is nuts. Do you see what's going on with Tenant Media?
Dude, yeah, what on earth is going on over there? That one was wild.
Let me see if I can actually pull it up on screen. Let me see. Window. Okay, I could do this. Share. Then I could do that. And then let me.
Hey, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, guys. You're going to have to just bear with me. Let me pull that up. I'll do that there. Oh, wait. It's not working. Hang on. Oh, what did I just do? Hang on.
Yeah, Rob abandons us, y'all, because he has family priorities.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I don't have a family. I put this show first. I put my family to the side.
Let's see. So for some reason, when I hit that, like now when I go to click the story, I lose my screen. Now, can you see the story right now?
Did you click it? Did you click the
story? I clicked it, but it's not. I see it, but you guys can't, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, no, I don't see it. All
right, so let's see why it's doing that.
That is weird.
I can't click it from here. Let me see, can I? No.
This is exciting.
Oh,
It is
sorry,
exciting.
guys.
This is why we need Rob, y'all, but Rob doesn't like us sometimes.
Okay. All right. Let me see. Wait. Exit full screen. Let me get back to that.
You
Okay.
can intro it and I can play around with it. I'll play around with it.
Yeah, you play around. No, but I used to have it figured out. I don't know what's going on. All right. So either way, I'll bring the story up and I'll just read it from my phone like usual. So the PJ Media thing is very strange. So Tenant Media, not PJ Media, Tenant Media. So okay, so Andy No wrote this. Shortly after this report was published, Tenant Media announced privately to its staff that it was ceasing operations effective immediately. The founders of Tenant Media, the right-wing media startup accused by the U.S. Department of Justice of illegally taking nearly $10 million from Russian state actors to launder Russian influence, were raided on Wednesday as the indictment was unsealed, according to the sources who spoke exclusively with the Post Millennial. The sources, who are not authorized to publicly speak on record, said the authorities confiscated the electronic devices belonging to Tenant Media owners Lauren Chen, and also known as Lauren Yu Sum Tam. I didn't know that was her name. So Lauren Chen's real name is Lauren Yu
No, I
Sam.
wonder if that's like her married name.
No, I think she's just Chinese, and that's her real name. So, and her husband, Liam Donovan. Around the time the Biden-Harris administration announced the indictment on Wednesday, I don't think the owners had any idea about the investigation, one source said. The raid just came out of nowhere. So Lauren Chen, she had, I think the Blaze was trying to get her for a while. She's got like 570,000 subscribers on her channel. She always seemed kind of like not authentic to me, and never, like, even all the Israel conversation that's been coming up lately, it seemed like she was just adopting the positions of other people without actually having any real knowledge on any of those situations, just trying to get her name into the conversation. I saw she did a debate with Pearl and Rachel Wilson and stuff. Then she debated Andrew Wilson, but it just all seemed very inauthentic. She was a pretty face, and she had concern. Like, if you want to make money and you're an attractive woman, just be the attractive conservative girl, and you'll get scooped up by somebody. Like, conservatives are so annoying like that, where they see a pretty girl and they're just like, she's so based. It's like, it's really annoying. So
We have our own version of DEI hires. Like, that's
yes,
one thing that the right needs to understand is it's like, I mean, Eric Salmon's kind of hinted at this in his pro-life tweet that he put out. What was it, yesterday or the day before? I forget. Someone sent it to one of my chats this morning, so I got the chance to read it. But like, when he's going on, he's saying like back in the 80s and 90s, all the major pro-life leaders were men for the most part. There was still some women that were leaders, but it was mostly men. And then it got infiltrated by feminists who mainly wanted to push really emotional sentiments right at the forefront of the pro-life message. Plus, it just looks better. Like, from a purely PR standpoint, it's like, okay, what would you rather have? Like a bunch of guys saying no abortion or a bunch of women say no abortion?
yeah,
Same thing is with here is it's just like, okay, anytime we can have a woman in charge of something, it's going to give some type of credence to our scenario or our purpose, if you will, our cause, that doesn't make us look bad. So I actually just got an alt account. I forget how long ago it was, like a couple days ago, but it's not under my name because I honestly don't want to engage anything. I got it purely because I'm going to be doing a lot of political commentary in the future, and you can just pull up Twitter because that's where all the news is.
too controversial for Seek. Yeah, so it's we actually read Eric's tweet on air last night. Like,
Okay, epic, yeah.
my thing with the pro-life movement, I don't have anything against women being involved in it. It's not like I want only men there. I just think men should be at the forefront of it, and women should be allowing men to lead the movement, especially its messaging, especially because what we're dealing with now is such violence. Like, if any videos you see of pro-life activists, they get like confrontations happen and there's violence. Like, I really do think men need to be at the forefront of this conversation because it's getting violent and dangerous. But also messaging, men are just better at propaganda. Women, everything's empathy based, everything's feelings based, where men just want to get to the cold hard facts, which is uncomfortable. But I don't think you can you can really reach people with the harshness that is necessary if you're not willing to go there. You know, we're talking about the dismemberment of infants. I mean, it's so all right. So yeah, so Lauren Chen, pretty face, she gets approached by these. I guess they'll get into it specifically in the story. So let's just go through it. Chen, a right-wing YouTuber, a social media personality, and her husband have not commented publicly. The company's social media accounts were still posting content just before the indictment's unsealed. Sources tell TPM that Tenant Media staff have been kept entirely in the dark since the indictment's announcement, with the founders not communicating at all with any employees or contributors. Update: on Thursday evening, Donovan wrote a message to staff announcing that Tenant. This is Andy No's article, and Andy No, he did a good job with this. So Thursday evening, Donovan wrote a message to staff announcing that Tenant Media was over. As most of you may know by now, there is a federal investigation surrounding Tenet at the moment. There have been no indictments against us or the company. We have hired legal counsel and are working through the legal issues. We hope to provide more clarity soon. However, it is clear that given the nature of the investigation, we have no choice but to stop all work on Tenet. I do not foresee it coming back. That is like, oh boy, you're in trouble.
It's so insane.
Because you know what's strange about this, Nick? So far, everybody that's coming, so it's like Benny Johnson, right? Benny Johnson. I'm not a fan of his. I think he's a little annoying. Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, right?
Yeah.
When you guys hear the amount of money that they were paying these guys, now Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, and Benny Johnson all said nobody came to them and told them what to say, right? So Tim Pool just put the culture war on there. Dave Rubin was putting one video a week up on Tenant Media. Benny Johnson, same thing. Like they were just producing their own content and giving it to Tenant Media. So what it seems like to me is that Lauren Chen went to her conservative buddy influencers and was just trying to build up a new media empire. Like it doesn't seem like she was trying to get any specific messaging out. She was just trying to bring attention through influencers to build this new platform up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now this money came from Russia. It came from once the Ukraine invasion happened, Russia Today was banned in the UK, Europe, America. So Russia Today, RT, got banned from all, because they're basically state propaganda, state media for Russia. So they weren't allowed to even produce content in America. Now, it doesn't sound to me like they were trying to push propaganda. It seemed to me like they wanted a piece of the American content market.
Yeah.
Right? It just seems like they wanted a piece of the American content market. So they put $10 million investment up and they go and they get all these influencers to come and put all their stuff on this one platform, trying to gain followers. Now, these shows that they were putting up were not getting millions of views. Like they were getting 100,000 views, nothing crazy. Now, I don't know if that's because it's early on. I don't know if YouTube, maybe the DOJ went to YouTube and told them this and they had to throttle it to make sure it didn't grow. But it just seemed like it didn't seem like an actual propaganda tool yet. Now, obviously, Tim Pool is against the Ukraine war. I don't know much about Benny Johnson. I'm assuming he is too. But that's not a Russian talking point. That is an American right-wing talking point.
Yeah, no, exactly. What I have an issue with when it comes to this is that this is just the latest piece in the puzzle of essentially warmongering hostilities that we have as the West toward Russia. Now, just to preface this so people aren't taking me out of context, I think the war should not have happened. I'm not saying that Russia is just this Messiah land and that we are the pure devil. What I'm saying is that over the last really 8 years, even before then, just take 2016 as kind of a marker point. In 2016, Trump wins the election. For 4 years, we hear nothing other than the Russians in some form or fashion hacked into the election, got their, Putin spy into the White House, and that was that, right? But then, of course, whenever you see the 2020 election roll around, we see the Hunter Biden laptop story breaks. 200 plus, I think it was like 200 intelligence agencies, maybe it's 100, I forget the exact number, all come out and say this whole Biden story, it's just Russian disinformation. Don't listen to them. Remember they said Tulsi Gabbard was Russian funded and that she was trying to overthrow the DNC. It's always just been this same old Russia story. And
Okay,
my
so
whole issue is that they're just warmongers. And so what this comes down to is that in the Ukraine war, it's not that Putin wants to be the next czar of Europe. That's not what this is about. What it's about, and I'm not a Putin fan, by the way, either, a Putin apologist. What it is, though, is that you've seen the West has continuously pushed Russia out of the conversation, particularly the economic conversation. And they've continued to try to get Ukraine and other countries to join NATO. Which my question is, why do we even have that, by the way, since the Soviet Union doesn't even exist anymore? And they've pushed them and made them more and more nervous. So eventually, after you sanction them, after you threaten them, after you basically use them as your scapegoat for everything, and then they attack, that's exactly what they want to do. So it's a stupid propaganda war, and
So
that's what you see with
I
this stuff.
have a theory how all this is going to connect. The reason I'm starting
Mhm.
with this story is because it goes into my political theory that I want to run past you and bounce off you and see what you think. So,
Mhm.
but let's finish the story, because when you guys hear how much money these guys were making, you're going to think it's insane. So, Tenant Media has not issued any public comment except for one post on their X account, apparently unauthorized, that was deleted within a few seconds on Wednesday. The deleted post
Few
read,
seconds.
"Fired employee here, access still. There is evidence we were actually funded by Russia, and it's a disgrace. We are traitors to America." So this is a disgruntled employee that had access to the account still. Am I coming through clear?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, because I lost Wi-Fi for a sec. So the DOJ alleges that two large Russian nationals, I'm not even going to try and pronounce their names, illegally laundered nearly $10 million to Tenant Media to push discord and division in the U.S. in favor of Russian state interests. They are also accused of violating FARA, the federal law that requires agents of foreign countries to register their activities. Chen and Donovan were not charged in the indictment, nor were the 6 public-facing talents that created content under contract for Tenet. Those content creators were Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Lauren Southern, Matt Christensen, and Taylor Hansen. Now, Lauren Southern posted a video recently. It might be on Twitter still. She just bought a new Porsche. Okay. So she just bought a Porsche with Russian money. Except for Southern, who has not commented publicly, the content creators released statements saying they had full editorial control over their content. The indictment alleges some of them were misled by the 2 Russian defendants and the company's founders about their funding sources. Rubin was allegedly paid $400,000 a month for a weekly video, along with a $100,000 sign-on bonus. Dave Rubin's YouTube channel, his average videos, like if you look up his video clips, they're getting like 9,000 views. His live shows get around 75 to 100,000, like between 75 and 100,000. There is no planet where that guy is worth 400 grand a month or $100,000 per video to post on Tenet. I'm talking on his own personal channel. Those videos are getting 78,000 views. Dave Rubin, I think, makes most of his money through locals. Like, he's a partner in locals. I don't think he's making that much on his YouTube channel. Like, Kennedy Hall posted something earlier today. He said the channels that just criticize other people's content is a sign of like low IQ. Like, you're not a creative person. You're not making your own stuff. All you do, you're like a leech. You're just leeching off of other people's creativity. You have nothing original to say. And he's right. He's describing Dave Rubin, right? Tim Pool, on the other hand, has a gigantic audience. Tim Pool's getting
built a business.
Millions and millions of views per day. So I could see Tim getting 400,000 a month. Like, Tim brings validity to a thing, where Dave Rubin is just a sleazy pervert, in my opinion.
He was also kind of like, Dave was, again, kind of like the neocon, if you will, DEI hire, because he's gay. They were like, oh, okay, a gay guy saying some conservative things on economics. That's good, right? And so let's bring him aboard. Tim, you're right. Tim makes sense. I don't obviously agree with a lot of Tim Pool's positions. I think
look, Tim is he has the moniker milquetoast fence sitter for a reason. He's a milquetoast fence sitter. He's basically a 90s liberal. He's not a conservative by any stretch of the imagination. But Dave Rubin is a plant to subvert the conservative movement, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see. Yeah, Tim Pool has always said that he's not a conservative, and I think that just goes to show you how, like, the indictment on the right is that the right ultimately, in my opinion, has lost the culture war when it decided to divorce itself from its biblical roots. It's failed. But you're right, and so what will be interesting to see then there going forward will be what type of, if you will, fallout will this happen when it comes to the government accusing them of using Russian, state media money? Are they going to do some type of full on crackdown on them or what?
So here's what I want to bounce by you. I posted a video in the show notes because I saw Aaron Burnett did a video the other day criticizing Kamala Harris for using Trump's border wall in
a video,
her ad, like in her campaign ad. She actually featured Trump's border wall and just trying to come off like this tough on border policy candidate, right? Everything we've seen Kamala doing in the past few weeks, like Trump comes out and says no tax on tips, Kamala just repeats it. Kamala's actually at the point where she's saying she's going to build the wall. Like, she has nothing of substance to say. This woman could not get through an 18-minute interview on CNN. Her campaign is spiraling out of control. She had that odd it was so manufactured, but this weird thing when she first announced where this like immediate excitement was manufactured, and it was like all you saw was these huge crowds going to her events, and it was like, whoa, what is going on here? This is not natural. Something's up here. But now when you see Nate Silver's putting polling up showing that Trump's, like, her campaign is diving, Trump's skyrocketing. He's at like 60%. I'm starting to think, because a year ago I said, if you guys think there's any scenario where Trump becomes president, then you haven't been paying attention. Just because I've seen what the deep state has been doing for the past couple of years. I've seen all the things they're putting him through. I didn't think there was a scenario imaginable where they would allow Trump to become president. What I'm seeing now, especially because the Trump sentencing hearing, they delayed Trump's sentencing till after the election. There's several things that seem to be happening where I'm starting to go, maybe they may let this guy win. Now, I have several reasons for thinking that. One of them is the Ukraine war. I think that they bungled, I think that's the word. They bungled this operation so bad. They really didn't think they were going. I mean, we are getting destroyed in Ukraine. Now, the State Department, in order to save face, look, you bring Trump in and Trump goes and negotiates a deal, then it doesn't look like, oh man, the State Department couldn't handle Russia. It looks like Trump went in and made a deal and got us out of this mess that we're in. Because the only way to beat Russia at this point is to put American boots on the ground, and there is no appetite for it in the American population. There's no appetite for that, right? So, fumbled. Molly said, what did I say? No, I think bungled works.
Right. Bungled works, yeah. Bumbled, bungled, fumbled. Either one.
So okay, so that the Ukraine thing is one, and the other is the when Trump is in, it's actually good for business for the left. Okay. You really have to think about what they are able to accomplish when Trump is in office. They get fundraising out the rear end. They are able to put protests together. They get this crazy energy about their campaign because literally Hitler is in office, Exactly. And I think that they're almost able to get more done with a guy like him. And I think that this whole thing with this Russiagate 2.0 is being set up just like after Hillary Clinton lost. They're going to blame the whole thing on Russian interference in the election. Like, this is just the way my mind is working and the way I'm seeing all the cards being set, and that after Trump wins, they're going to go Russia, and put him through another impeachment, blame the whole thing on Russian interference. It just feels very repetitive of what we've seen.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're right. So first and foremost, my first thought is you're right. The Kamala Harris campaign, especially in its early onset, was completely manufactured. It was completely manufactured. You go and look at a lot of the rallies. There's lots of famous singers and artists that go to those things, right? So that's why a lot of people show up. And then even at a lot of those things, there was AI photoshops and stuff like that, which was a complete joke. Trump's base is never going to leave him because, I mean, the dude's got shot in the freaking face. It's like so many people have already forgotten that, even on the right. Like the guy literally got shot in the face
Yeah.
and did like a massive Julius Caesar moment, rising up above under fire, saying, "Let's fight," blood pouring down his face. I'm like, come on, guys. That's a pretty epic moment. But then after that, you're right. So Nate Silver, prediction markets, they're starting to favor Trump again to be the winner, which kind of makes sense because I don't know if you remember, Anthony, but whenever we were theorizing about if Biden was going to drop out or not, one of the lines was, if Harris does take the mantle, she's just going to be there to basically be the best version of damage control for the down ballot races that possibly can happen. Because if Biden's at the head of the ticket, they're just going to get swamped everywhere because he's the face of the party and it's really going to look bad. So that very well could still be the reality, that they know she's going to lose. That's why they're trying to keep her, hiding Harris at the moment, trying to keep her away from the spotlight. Obviously, September 10th is going to be a big day because with her going out and debating Trump, they've never debated, they've never met in person. ABC is sticking to the original rules of cutting off the microphones and stuff like that, which actually favors Trump because it forces him to be linear whenever he's debating a subject. So it's going to be good. Long term, though, yeah, if Trump wins, which I think everyone, again, should go and vote for Trump just so we can give one big middle finger to this horrific system, then you're right. We are going to see massive amount of backlash because you're right. There's not a ton of energy. There's not the energy of the 2020s, right? Of 2020s like leftist rage that you saw then. There's not
Nick,
that.
not just that. Look, okay, in 2020, you had this conglomerate of everyone uniting against Trump. You had Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg put 400 million into it. Everybody was like, we need to get rid of this dictator. You do not have that this time around. Not just do you not have that, you have the most moderate liberals coming and joining forces with Trump. You have you got RFK, you got Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk buying Twitter changed everything. I really do. I think the whole what we're allowed to talk about is completely different because Elon bought Twitter. I think in the future they'll look back at that as a pivotal moment in the life of this election for sure. Now, they just don't have that energy of united front again. Dude, they're bragging about getting Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney to endorse Kamala as if that's like her version of RFK coming out. Like that RFK speech, man, I'm still not like, I still think that's probably the greatest political speech I've heard in a very long time, if not ever. And it's got me thinking about the way I eat now. Like, I'm not kidding. When I go and buy food now, I'm looking, I'm like, I'm not eating this. I'm not eating this. It's changed my eating habits. That man has changed the conversation around medical everything. I mean, everything from shots to, I mean, I'm questioning everything. And it's just very different from the last election. I don't know. I've never seen anything like this. It's very different.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that it will be very interesting to see what happens because I think that it's going to be very, very tight election. But what will, I think, come down to will be the things that you mentioned. Like, okay, so Elon bought Twitter, changed the narrative because, as you said, in 2020, it was hyper censorization that was going on all platforms. Zuckerberg's come out and apologized. He's been, run through the ringer, not as much as he honestly should be. And then you're right, whenever you see big names like Kennedy endorsing Trump, there's a lot of independents that I've seen online on Twitter now since I'm on it. So $5 to the first person who can find me on Twitter. If you guys can find
are
me,
you following me?
I'm not at the moment. I'm not following anybody except for real Donald Trump. So
you don't follow me.
That'd be giving it away. So,
let me tell you something. I've been just trolling so much, but so yesterday people came down on me pretty hard about this scenario. We'll get back to politics in a sec. So I read a story. I watched a video of a truck driver who was driving his truck, had a tablet mounted, and he was flipping through videos on his tablet. And he looked down for a second. When he looked up, traffic was dead stopped in front of him. He rear-ended a car and he killed 5 people.
Dang.
He got 4.5 years for each person he killed, so 22 years in prison.
Dang.
That seems really harsh to me. I understand he took 5 lives. Like, I don't want to come off as being soft. I'm not saying that. I'm looking at it like every person on that jury. I mean, I would have to say the cast the first stone line at them. I would say he who has never looked at their phone while driving cast the first stone. Because I don't care who you are, you've had that moment where you texted while driving. And it only takes a second. Yeah, it hits close to home because I'm a truck driver. I mean, look, I've tweeted while driving, but I'm sitting in dead stop traffic. But yeah,
New York.
It's dead stop traffic. I would never tweet if I'm moving at highway speeds. But it was one of those things that hit close to home. It was just one of those things where I was like a little empathetic to. I was like, oh man, God forbid you look down at your phone, you look up and all that. So now the guy got away with it for 6 months. He had no alcohol in the system, nothing. And 6 months later, they did forensic. He didn't have any phone calls or texts on his device, on his phone. They checked his phone and they were like, oh yeah, the guy didn't do anything. They pressed no charges. 6 months later, the truck caught fire. They found his tablet in the fire wreckage. And they did forensics on the device, and they saw that he had TikTok open when the accident happened. Now, I still don't know how they prove.
That's interesting.
But it was 6 months later, they hit him with charges, and he winds up getting found guilty, and they hit him with 22 years. Now, I'm not saying, look, 5 lives are lost. I mean, if that's your family, you want to. But I know my friend, a very close friend I have, his dad worked at a car dealership. He went out to his car. His car was parked out in the street. He went to his trunk to get something. A girl was texting, rear-ended him and killed him. Dang, that girl was never charged with anything. Now, I thought that was insane. I think the girl should have got 3 years. I'm not saying ruin her life. She's a 19-year-old girl. But, there needs to be consequences. But 22 years, man, your life is over.
Yeah, no, that's a rough place. That's a rough place to be. Yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, it's easy when you're like removed from the situation to be like, yeah, man, throw the book at him entirely. Yeah. But then when you put yourself in that situation, I'm reminded of what St. Thomas says, where he says, like, the reason we even feel pity for other people is because we see our own nature in them. Like, we share the human nature and we picture ourselves in that position being, destroyed, and it's rough. So I actually never look at my phone while driving, even when stopped. Seriously, guys, it's not worth it. Yeah, it isn't worth it. It really isn't worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah, you look, we're driving around these. I would love to. We could do it on locals, but Rob and I actually talked about it recently, and we got a strike on our channel, so we have to be so careful around. Like, the medical misinformation thing on YouTube is still the one thing that they'll bag you for, and we're actually on a 90-day probation period where if we say anything out of line and violate that, they'll nuke our channel. So we're on like a 90-day probation period, so we do have to be very careful. But yeah, that topic, I mean, I can't believe how differently I think on that topic since 2020, man. It's just like like my son's going to college. He's going to a community college, and they're like, oh, you need a meningitis vax. I'm like, nuh-uh. Like, that ain't happening. You're not getting anything. No way.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I remember even before, let's see, I'll make it the most cloaked language because I don't want us to get nuked. Before a few years ago, when some stuff was hitting the fan worldwide, I was very divided on that whole topic because I didn't know a whole lot about it, right? Yeah. And I worked at a grocery store at the time as a front end manager, and so we would only let in like a few people during that season of when everything was hitting the fan, and it was just wild. But so we would see people just raging in the store at each other. Like, one person decides to wear a certain article of clothing and another person decides not to wear a certain article of clothing.
Yeah, in Texas, that was probably very fraught.
Yeah, and people were just freaking out all the time, man. It was crazy. But I got convinced over to the let's just say more libertarian opinion, I guess, for lack of better words on the subject. Of,
meaning you thought to each his own, or you thought, I'm not wearing this?
The latter. I'm not wearing it.
Yeah, I was like that from day one, and I'm in New York. I had many, many arguments. Like
Yeah.
that was this channel started because I refused to get the actual shot, right? Like, and my first video was me going on and just saying, I may lose my job over this. I'm only coming on in case anybody else is kind of going through something similar, and I just want to let you know you're not alone going through this, and I'm willing to lose my career over this. I'll figure it out from there.
Yeah.
But the mask thing was another red line for me. It was like, okay, if you're not willing to have a confrontation with somebody in a store over something, because dude, when you really think about what that thing did, breathing in your own, like, dude, people would leave the thing in their cup holder, then put it on their face. It's not like you put a new one on every time. This is a filthy thing that you're leaving in your car. You pick it up, you put it on. There's no way that is doing anything but making you more vulnerable to get sick. And I was just like, I'm not doing it. Absolutely not. So I had a lot of fights.
Or even just the weird, like, if you will, social dances that we would do. You know, we would wear this article of clothing going into a restaurant, but then we could take it off once we, hit the table. It's just, it's just so wacky to me. But yeah, no, it would actually be worth having. I mean, what's the song we could try to have RFK on? You want to try to
I
get
would love
RFK
to
on?
get him on. So yeah, so Molly, that's 100% right. Like, so I was actually like, thought I was losing my job, and I'm like, I'm moving to the middle of nowhere because I'm going to take whatever money I'm going to sell my house. I'm not going to have a job anymore. I got to take any money, any equity I'd have in my house, plus whatever I got in my annuity. I'm homesteading. Like, that was what I was going to do. And yeah, it was just, and then my Twitter got nuked. I started like a whole homesteading group text on Twitter, and then they nuked my freaking Twitter again.
Because these are pre-Elon days.
Yeah, it was. Definitely.
It's like I see some people in the chat. They're still roasting Elon. It's like, okay, where Elon needs to be roasted, sure. But like, as I said beforehand, the guy absolutely changed this whole conversation. Because could you guys picture everything? Let's just say since 2020, right, going down if Elon hadn't bought Twitter.
Dude, none of us would be on there, but we would all been suspended by now. I mean, you'd all be on like your third or fourth. I was on my fourth iteration of Twitter.
Yeah.
Every time I would hit like 3,500, 3,000 followers, they would nuke my account. I had to start from scratch. It was so freaking annoying.
Yeah, it's kind of like the right wing. It's true. Like, we do have a tendency for like death spiraling, purity spiraling about certain things. And it kind of gets ridiculous. It's kind of like with some of these major figures, whether it's Trump or Elon, there's legit areas to criticize people over. But it's like, guys, you are not going to find St. Louis the Ninth.
No,
like, it's not going to happen.
Dude, Mac has literally been around since the first video. So is Molly, though. Mrs. C has been around since the first video, too. Like, there's a few people who actually watched like my first stupid videos, and like followed this trajectory to what are we at? Almost 15,000 subs.
I went back and watched the first video, and I was just like, "Is this Anthony?" It's like your voice is like very different.
My voice is different. My teeth were so bad because my teeth were so bad. Like, I chipped my tooth, and it was so I had like a little bit of a lisp when I spoke. It was pretty crazy.
Those were different days, guys.
Dude,
you looked really wild back then.
When you see your face on screen, you're like, I can't present myself like this. Weird. What am I doing?
It's so weird. You guys have to understand, if you do a pre-recorded video, it's the most awkward thing on earth. Like, whenever I do a pre-recorded video, I just pull up like, my notes or something in front of the actual camera of me, because I can't. It's too awkward.
I totally forgot it was Mrs. C's birthday today. I should have thrown that out on Twitter. I had a crazy day at work. I totally should have freaking blown that out. I'll do it after the show, but happy birthday, Molly. My daughter's birthday is tomorrow. So my older daughter, she's turning 17. She just failed her road test. She's very upset. Typical broad.
I was just like, in your family especially, I'm not surprised.
What's funny is she's a better driver than my son, and my son passed his first time. Like, my son was like, he's just like spaces out when he drives. I don't know, but my daughter was a good driver, but she's also very anxious, and she's a nervous wreck. And when she got in the car, she gets in, and the woman didn't say anything, and then she goes to put it in drive, and the woman yelled at her, and she goes, "I didn't tell you to start yet." Now, when you put a woman in a position of authority, especially a woman of color, They are, first of all, my daughter's terrified. Like, she was just like terrified of this woman. And once you set her in that mode, she was just a nervous wreck the whole time. She went to parallel park, she hit the curb, which is, you know, she's a girl. I would expect her to hit the curb. But hitting the curb in a parallel park in New York is an automatic fail.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah, so she got an automatic fail.
That's kind of wild. That's kind of insane.
Yeah, I honestly, I think I have parallel parked 7 times in my entire life.
Yeah,
You just don't do it that often.
yeah, it's pretty wild. My driver test was really funny. It was this college kid who I'm pretty sure was like getting over a hangover. He was just like so out of it. And I was driving 5 miles. I was in the parking lot because that's how much the speed limit sign was. And the dude just like, dude, literally just like go ever as fast as you want. I don't really care. Just don't go super
That's
slow.
awesome.
So we go into this neighborhood and we're basically just cruising around and like chit chatting. I would just, stop at the stop signs, and finally we got ourselves back parallel park, and he was like, all right, 97, goodbye.
So they don't even in New York, they won't even tell you if you passed on the spot anymore because there's been
really?
violence. Like people flip out if they fail. My older brother, when he took his road test, on the way to the road test, my mom says, "Come on, Dom, let's pray a Hail Mary on the way." He goes, "That's stupid. I don't need to pray. Like, God's not going to answer my prayers." But he went and took the test and he failed. So when he takes his second test, he's like, "All right, Mom, let's pray a Hail Mary." And he passed.
That's how it is. That's how it is.
Yeah, you don't want Our Lady's help? Okay.
Oh man, oh man.
So all right, the other story that is interesting. Okay, so Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
Hunter Biden pleads guilty to his case. Now, what are your thoughts on that? Why do you think he did that?
Yeah, honestly, so as I was going over it, I personally think it's probably just to get some form of a lighter sentence. That's probably what it's going to be at the root of it in some form or fashion, because typically when someone does plead guilty, it's not generally because they have a great conscience and they're just sorry for their crimes and they want to do
I have a
time.
different take than this. I'm glad you're going this
Right.
way.
It's just generally speaking, it's more for like they know that they're going to have some type of hit the book at them in some form or fashion, and so wanting a lighter sentence. But I'm open to other theories. That's just kind of what my initial thoughts were whenever I read
honestly, I think after what they did to Joe,
it.
with tossing him out of the race, I think Hunter just wants to get the case over with. He wants to give me whatever sentence you're going to give me. He's facing 17 years. I don't care.
Yeah.
Give me whatever sentence you want. Daddy's writing me a get out of jail free card.
That's fair, yeah.
You can't even blame the guy after what they did to him, right? Like I said this. If you're Joe Biden, how do you not pardon your son? Like, I'm not gonna let my son go to prison, even if he gets a year. Like, I'm not gonna let my son go to prison. Look what they did to him. They used him as a puppet for the past 4 years, gassed him up to make him think he was running again, and then at the last second, they're just like they wrote some fake letter.
They put it on Twitter. The White House staffers don't even know he's resigned until they look it up on Twitter. Could you picture? Like, they're all around the water fountain at their lunch break, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, how's it going, Jim? Oh, yeah, it's going pretty good today. Oh, what's this on Twitter? Our boss has resigned. What the heck?" Yeah,
it's like literally his whole staff that day was like, "No, he's staying in." And they're like, "Did you not see Twitter?" Like, "No, he's not staying in." Like, "Oh no." It was so shameless what they did to that poor man. It's so crazy because he's such an evil piece of crap.
But we feel bad for him. Yeah. I actually feel bad for him just because I'm like, you are an evil scumbag, but like at least let you go out fighting and don't do the whole like cloak and dagger behind your back and force the old man out. Because like the guy legit wanted to keep going. He wanted to because he has an ego the size of Texas, but he just couldn't.
Yeah, and I also think it's a big source of income for his whole family, his brothers, his son. They're all depending on that influence peddling and stuff. But what's crazy is, so you have to think back to 2016. Now, how old were you in 2016?
I just turned 18, so I got to vote. That was my first.
Oh, you did get to vote in 2016. Okay, so
I've told before on the story where I was the only person in a very large political science class who voted for Trump, but then predicted to the class that Trump would win and bet everyone various amounts of money and cleaned house.
So now in 2016, up against Hillary, the vitriol that we all had for that woman. So like, you don't really know her, but we all knew her. The older you are, the more you know Hillary. Like, she is just a repulsive person.
Yeah, I didn't live through it, but I've always really been into politics since I was pretty young, and so that election especially, I was keeping tabs every single day, and I was just like, "This lady." I mean, I was calling her Killary then too. I was just like, "This
Yeah.
lady, how many people have the Clintons help laid to rest?" To put it YouTube friendly. I mean, it was insane. Plus all the other stuff when it came to her emails, her botched stuff with Russia, just her entire family is 1000% the crime family.
Oh, for
1000%.
sure. But she had such vitriol against it. Like, there was something so unlikable about that woman that I'm talking, even your average, like, Democrat was turned off by her. Like, the way she spoke, everything about her was just, we all had, like, she defended her husband through all the crap he did with Monica Lewinsky and stuff.
Because she didn't care about that deep down. You guys know that she's seeing guys on the side. She knows that Bill's seeing girls on the side. That she knows what's been going on a certain island, let's just say out in the Atlantic. She knows all of this stuff. For them, their marriage was a marriage of convenience. It was, how much can we bilk up together? We'll be the power couple. We'll do our thing in public. You do your thing on the side. I'll do my thing on the side. We'll make money. We'll gain power. That's all that marriage was ever.
Yeah, it was a marriage of convenience,
Exactly.
but because there was so much vitriol against her, like, the thing with Joe Biden was, even he just came off as this harmless old man. Even in 2020, when he ran against Trump, he just came off as like a harmless old man. He was
the ice cream grandpa.
Yeah,
It's kind of
actually,
like, I'm the sane normalcy that we're gonna get after 4 years of the tweeting machine.
even to this day, I don't hate Biden. He just was
They
never
don't actually
that.
hate any of these guys.
Yeah, I don't hate him. Where Kamala kind of brings up that visceral feeling I had for Hillary. Like, I have an issue with any female politicians, and typically conservative ones more. Like, I actually, like, I don't mind AOC for some reason.
You're from New York.
I think it's because she's just like a typical New York Spanish broad. Like, I'm used to seeing it. And she's honest about who she is. Like, she straight out says she's a commie, like, she just doesn't bother me. Where Lauren Boebert and MTG just get under my skin. Lauren Boebert might be the most vile woman in history. I think she's worse than Hillary Clinton, because she goes out and talks family values and she abandoned her family. I mean, there's nothing more vile than somebody trying to lecture you on family values when you abandon your husband and children. I mean, yeah. I have no tolerance. There's nothing more despisable than a hypocrite, But Kamala brings up just her voice, right? So I have this test. So I listened to her DNC speech, and I'm convinced that they sat her down for 500 hours and made her get rid of that annoying nasally thing she has in the back of her voice, because she didn't sound as annoying to me. She was still annoying, don't get me wrong, but she didn't sound as annoying. So I'm like, is this just because I'm getting desensitized from seeing so many Kamala videos? So I played it for my wife, and I'm like, okay, just like, what are your impressions of this? She goes, oh my gosh, she's so annoying. I'm like, okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know, because I want to know what a person who's not paying attention to politics. My wife does not pay attention to this stuff. I want to know what your raw feeling is when you hear this woman speak. My wife despises this woman. She can't stand her. So that's a good thing. Like, that's a good sign for your typical
normie
suburbanite woman, So that rage that we had for Hillary was gone under Joe Biden, and it's kind of coming back for Kamala. But the thing with Hunter, I don't think people would even begrudge Biden for pardoning him. He said earlier on, like, oh, I'm not going to pardon my son. But that was when he was running for re-election and he had to worry about keeping his word and things. There's no holds barred at this point. It's like, he has nothing to prove anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly, like, if he did it, would it be wrong? Yeah, but it would just look like kind of a sleazy politician stuff, and no one would really care at the end of the day for the most part.
Yeah,
but you're right. I think whenever you look in the limelight and you say, okay, between Harris, between Biden, which one is the more dangerous? Harris, they control, like the deep state, the uniparty, they control Harris, but not as much practically speaking as Biden, because Biden's just out to lunch.
I think they're for the deep state. I think essentially it's the same candidate. But go ahead, I'll let you finish, and then I'll.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that what we'll have to figure out is that, and this is why I really want people to vote for Trump, is that if Trump gets into office, right, you're right, there is going to be a massive war for impeachment from day one. From
Yeah,
day
from day
one. If for instance, you guys, the Dems win the House, as an example, I guarantee you 1000% within the first 3 months there's going to be an impeachment.
Yeah. Well,
I'll
the
make
thing
that
is,
prediction
it
right now.
depends.
Within the first 3 months.
It depends. Well, they could bring an impeachment, but if they don't have the House, the impeachment is going to be dead in the water, right? They have to
Yeah.
have the House in order for it to move up to the Senate. So
That's
that's
what
what
I was saying,
all their impeachments kind of fell dead in the water because of that. Like they would get it in the House because they had the House that one time, so they got it to the Senate, and then the Senate just knocked it out. And they're like, "This is ridiculous."
That's what I'm saying. Like even if though they just get the House, if they just get the House, they will 1000% try. And you know what they'll do? They'll say, you know, you tried to storm the Capitol building, you encouraged an insurrection, 25th Amendment, yada yada yada. They'll do that entire spiel. But it's really because at the end of the day, look at some of the big things that Trump has proposed over, let's just even say the last like 30 days. From his economic proposals that he was talking about with Elon. So essentially auditing the U.S. government. I don't know how many of you guys actually saw that, but auditing the U.S. government.
Be amazing.
Guys, that's awesome. Like, I mean,
That would be
come on.
amazing.
That's amazing.
That would change the trajectory of our country if he allowed Elon to do an audit of the federal government.
Yeah, that would be absolutely amazing. So we see stuff like that. Old stuff, of course, when it comes to the Schedule F, that would be amazing. RFK Jr. being somehow involved with, let's just say, certain bodily procedures.
Yeah.
Right. Those would be amazing reforms. Now, of course, are we going to get as social conservatives all the things we want? No. And unfortunately, I think the issue really comes down to with those issues and with those voters is recognizing that the right lost the war on that. And I think one day you and I should just do an episode solely dedicated to why the right lost the culture war on social issues. Because it really did, and it lost it because for many reasons, but really because number one, it abandoned its biblical roots, but then two, it was also led by non-Catholics for the most part, right? Who were doing the kind of the cringe. It was this crowd. Homosexuals, bad. What do we call God? We call him Daddy God. It was that evangelical crowd of calling Daddy God and then homosexuals bad. That lost the cultural war. And so Trump being just a 90s Dem, is it where we would want it to? No, but in comparison to where we are potentially going, I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So I understand this sentiment, right? A lot of people saying Trump lost my vote because of the IVF conversation he had, right? I just think, and we talked about this a little last night. I think as long as we keep the pro-life issue as a political issue, you're never going to actually get anywhere. We need to go to what Nick is talking about and start winning the culture war again, right? If we keep it as a political issue, these people bounce this issue and they abuse you for your vote for this issue. They just pay it lip service. None of them do anything. It's the same thing. I got to be honest. You look at live action. You look at someone like Lila Rose. The worst thing in the world for business for Lila is if you start banning abortion. It's good for business for her. I'm not saying that's our motive. I'm just saying it when your business model is dependent upon this thing actually be. It's good when they ban abortion. It's good for Democrats. When they don't, it's good for Republicans. You don't want this as a political issue. You want this to hit hearts and minds and convince people at the ground level that this is a horrific thing that we're doing, right? Mm-hmm. So we need to do a lot of work on educating people on IVF. I think that's first and foremost.
Yeah, because most people don't even really know what it is. I mean, as you pointed out on one of the last shows, I think I wasn't on it for that one, but you pointed out that like most Catholics who came out and actually talked about it were like, but I love IVF. It's great. They didn't even know what the church's teaching was on it. But it's really getting back to what you said. Like we have to have a cultural conversation. Politics is always downstream from culture because politics wants to get elected. And so if the culture changes, they're going to say that. The reason, though, that I really get upset whenever I see a lot of people who are blackpilling about voting for Trump is that in some form or fashion, it's coupled with a sentiment of the Republican Party used to be the party of X, Y, and Z social issue. And I'm like, oh, yes, the Republican Party of, let me see, George Bush, John McCain and
Yeah.
Mitt Romney. You want that Republican Party back? The neocons who said all those social things just to get votes and then took your tax dollars and bombed millions of people around the world. Yep, that's the Christian America I want. That's an absolute joke. At least Trump is somewhat honest, and he's just a 90s Democrat who doesn't really care about social issues. And that's just, he just
here's
wants to
what
make
Trump
money.
is. Trump will give you what the constituency wants.
Yeah, he
So
just wants to make money. He just wants America to make money.
Yeah, and he wants to give the voters what they want. So if he thinks it's a winning issue, he'll go for it, right? It's not that he just wants to win, it's that if the voters genuinely want it, he will deliver what he wants to give the constituents what they want.
Exactly.
My older brother had his first daughter through IVF, and he did not realize what a crazy procedure he was getting himself into until his wife got naturally pregnant with the second child and then a third child. And now all of a sudden he's got these 10 frozen embryos that he has to make a decision on, right? So I saw Jack Posobiec, who's a Catholic commentator. No, he's not a Catholic. He's Catholic and he's a political commentator. Comes out and he says, adopt IVF embryos. That's the pro-life option. And it's like, dude, he's a Catholic. He doesn't understand. First off, what you're talking about now is surrogacy, right? So you're actually getting into selling children as commodities. If you have embryos, fertilized eggs, embryos out there, and you just give them to a couple that wants to adopt them, you abandon your child. Like, that's your child. So my brother had to make the decision. What do? Do you keep these eggs frozen, which is inhumane? Do you dispose of them, or do you give them away for people who want to adopt them? None of those three options are acceptable. None of them are acceptable. And even impregnating yourself with them is really unacceptable because you're separating it from the marital act. It's just something that so my brother actually wound up disposing of them. And he it was like the first time my brother doesn't practice and he's not a practicing Catholic, but it affected him. Like, it really deeply affected him, and it made him really think deeply about the topic. And it was one of those times where I was able to break through a little bit deeper on some of our conversations with him, and he started to say, yeah, there's something going on here. And it's just, people don't realize what they're getting themselves into. They go into a doctor's office and the doctor's like, yeah, let's just do this fertility treatment. Let's just do this. And they don't realize what they're getting themselves into. So we have a lot of work to do in that aspect. I do feel like there's a part of me where I was feeling like, oh man, Trump seems to be dead set on upsetting his base the last few weeks, which is strange to me. But I think it's because he has RFK influencing him now, and he has all these moderates influencing him. But no matter how you look at it, it's either a vote for Trump or a vote against Kamala, because anything else is unacceptable. Like, you're not voting for Trump because of his IVF policy. You're voting for Trump to keep us out of war. You're voting for Trump for all these other financial reasons we're talking about, to get our country somewhat on a better track, for even if it's a temporary thing. There's a million reasons to vote for him. I can't think of any to legitimately not vote for him.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I'll give this as a radical example. I made a video maybe 3 or 4 days ago talking about, is it legitimate to vote for the lesser of two evils? People should go watch it. It's my latest video. It's like 30 minutes. It's pretty short. I cite like 12 manuals and 2 popes through it. So I document my sources. The most off the wall, in the sense of surprising, statement that I saw from Catholic religious authorities before the council, so all of us trads out there, right? You can listen up. They said this: what if you're a Catholic, right? And you're in a country where there's only one of two viable options: a liberal, a classical liberal, right? Which we know what the church teaches on liberalism, and a communist. Who do you vote for, right? And they say, vote for the liberal, not because the liberal is amazing, but because the communist will just completely shut down the church, whereas the liberal will at least tolerate it. In the situation that we're in right now, at least we can try to push our cultural values. Realistically, under Kamala Harris, it's going to become much more difficult to do those things. And you know what? Trump is wrong about IVF. To a degree, at least he's wrong for the right reasons, or at least with the right good intention, in the sense that he wants more babies to be a thing. Like, that's at least a good intention behind a misguided platform position, right? That's good. As opposed to Kamala, who wants to enshrine Roe v. Wade into federal law, which she could probably do. Let's just be honest.
I would
she could
argue
probably do it.
I would argue you're not voting for the lesser of two evils with Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that you're not voting based on this issue. Like it's look, if you're voting for someone because of their position on this issue, that like there was a time where we could say as Republicans, like you can't be Democrat and Catholic because you can't knowingly vote for somebody when there is a pro-life option. There is no pro-life option here. There isn't.
Yeah.
So you just take that option off the table, and it's just off the table. This election just isn't about that because it can't be. Like I understand everybody wants a federal ban on it.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen in the presidential election. It's something that we could work towards by electing senators and things like that, like representatives and senators at the state level, get them in, and that's how you would get it done, because it's not just something that Trump could. He's not an executive order on it.
It failed in Kansas. Kansas is one of those flyover states. I love Kansas, by the way. I'm potentially going to be moving there, but it's one of the reddest states in the union, and it failed there, right? Why? Because the issue is, and this is an indictment to the right, as I say this, it's because we, of course, the right in America for the most part is what we would just consider classically liberal, right? It's kind of the left in slow motion. It's just, okay, well, yeah, we want the kind of safe, legal, and rare thing as opposed to unlimited stuff. And that's what most Americans want, unfortunately, right? I don't like that. But you're right. This election really doesn't come down to it. And I'll even say this. A lot of people have been asking me, or they'll say two things to me. Number one, oh, we have Trump who's, apostatizing from all of these issues. If we only would have had, say, DeSantis from Florida in, right, we could have had a legitimate conservative option. And I'm like, guys, okay, number one, this is what's funny to me. A lot of people criticize me for being like God Emperor Trump, right? They're like, oh, Nick, you're just God Emperor Trump. You think he's the Messiah and stuff like that. And I'm like, but you guys actually, I'm at least honest with his positions. You guys actually act like God Emperor Trump. You guys actually act like the Republican Party is supposed to be the Messiah who's absolutely Catholic on every single social issue. Whereas when you look at Trump in 2016, what does he say? I think abortion is okay in context of, let's just say, forced stuff.
Under SA.
Under SA,
he gives the
things
typical
like that. He was fine with that, and then he enumerated, I personally think this should be a states' rights issue.
Yeah.
And you know what? We voted for him then. And then, he goes and speaks at the pro-life rally, right? And so I think a lot of people from that visual optics said, okay, he's one of us on this social issue. And the guy, look at what his last statement on this issue was. It was on the Florida bill. I think it was Amendment 4 or 5, I forget. But he says, I think that the Democrats are way out there on wanting it all the way up to birth, right? 9 months. And I think that the right, like the conservative right, is too far when it says just blanket banning. That's been his position forever. So you can say, let's go back to the Bushes of the world, which again, they were fake conservatives, but we don't have a conservative movement in the United States. What we can do, though, is change culture now and do the best that we can. I'll say this.
Go ahead.
The only other thing I was going to say was sometimes people say to me, well, Nick, why can't we vote third party? And I mentioned this in my video too. The manuals bring this up. They say unless there is a legitimate, viable third party who has a good candidate, right? But they say legitimate chance of winning, it is rather best still, even if you say you had the trad monarchist Catholic Party of the United States polling at 1%.
Taylor Marshall,
right?
is actually running, yeah.
The theologians would say vote for the liberal over the communist because that's at least a viable option that can at least there can be some good that can at least come from it. So I'm not asking any of you guys out there to withhold your principles, right? And to just say, okay, we'll just adopt secular principles. But what I am saying is recognize that the theologians teaching with the imprimaturs of the bishops and of the papal magisterium say in these dire crises, sometimes it is necessary through the principle of double effect to do what we need to do to try to prevent a great evil.
Maureen, I would need you to elaborate on this better. You have to tell me what you mean specifically by that. I'm going to say on the pro-life issue, the one last thing I'm going to say is this. You're never going to get this issue figured out until we convince people that sex outside of marriage is wrong. Like that's what this comes down to. If promiscuity persists, you're never getting rid of this. This is birth control. Like, you have to convince people of birth control.
Mhm.
Forget pro-life. Like, you need to convince people of birth control. We
You
need
have to convince Catholics of birth control. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so ridiculous.
We have to look, I know so many parents who, like my contemporaries, who they have kids my age and things like that, and they are like, you can't control your kids. Your kids are going to do whatever they're going to do. I'm like, no, they are not. Like, my daughters are not. Like, there's no scenario where I'm letting my daughters just go and sleep. Like, what are you even talking about? Like, this isn't a matter of like chaining my daughter up downstairs. This is a matter of having very deep conversations with my daughters, using the people in my life who don't have our philosophy as examples of, because to me, the greatest proof of God is look at the disordered lives of the godless.
Yeah.
Now, I have several family members who slept around and they got knocked up, and now they're living with their, now they're a concubine and they have a baby. And it's like, this will happen to you. This is what your future is if you play loose with this issue. This issue is like, I am so thorough with my children about this issue. And until you people start taking, like, until all of us as parents start understanding how pivotal our role is as parents to teach this to our children. Like, how are we ever going to change the culture when we have Catholic parents, children going and sleeping around? It's just, I think, especially the older, like the Gen X parents, the boomer parents, they lived through the sexual revolution, and their parents didn't talk to them about these things. These things, I'm telling you guys, especially if you have daughters, you need to sit them down. I sat my daughters down one day and I was like, I'm just telling you both, your father loves you way too much to ever let you be that girl. You'll never be that girl. Your father adores you. I make sure, if you have daughters, you make sure you hug them and kiss them every single night. Tell them you love them. You tell them how beautiful they are. You can't let them seek that affection and love from some dude. Like, it's such an important thing for men that have daughters to really understand how important this issue is with their girls.
1,000%. I'm not even a parent. Yeah, exactly. I'm not even a parent, but I just know from my study of moral theology, parents love the commandment, honor thy father and thy mother. And they love to teach that to their children, and they should teach that to their children. But if you do a deep study on that commandment, there's a whole lot of obligations that the parent is supposed to have toward the child, right? That you'll see in traditional examinations of conscience. So they'll ask things like, how are you letting your daughters dress? What are the types of people you're letting them hang around? What's the type of music or movies that you're allowing into the house that might have a negative or a positive impact upon them? We have to form a legitimate, not even just American culture that's moral. We have to just get back to a truly Catholic culture in the church.
Yeah.
Then we'll be able to go out and do these things. Because it's like, as an example, yesterday, I'm not saying this to be provocative, but this is just an example because it happened to be yesterday. Yesterday, in the Novus Ordo, Feast of Saint Mother Teresa, did she do a lot of good works on the corporal level, corporal works of mercy? Yes, you will 1,000% hear me say that. When it came to her doctrine, though, she had a lot of problems. Therefore, it's like,
She was a
should we be
product
really
of the council, though, Nick.
She was a product of the council, exactly. And so it's like, okay, when you take that, you also go to parish level, where a lot of Catholics aren't just even living their faith, or just very lukewarm. You can't expect normie America, right? Like, even in my town, I live in a small town in Texas. The religious demographic, 50.1% are atheist or just non-practicing. In a small town conservative red Texas, so many people don't practice or are culturally Catholic, culturally, quote, Christian, and they just go along to get along. So the realistic thing for us is, okay, either we can be so purist and say, Trump is a leftist, he's a neocon, I will only vote for the King David figure or the St. Louis IX, which will never happen, by the way, because it's just not going to happen until the culture changes. Or I can do what I can right now to do two things. Number one, to get a good, even a decent-ish candidate in. But then number two, also to change what's going on in my area around me. So run for office, vote for good people in office, whatever you think.
I got another good story we could go over. Also, everybody, please hit like. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe to our channel. Come on. It helps us a lot with things. So please hit like and subscribe. Helps the video. Also, this is a bonus show you guys are getting this week, and we'll make about $4 on the YouTube revenue. So if you guys want a super chat, it'll it'll definitely entice Nick and I to do these more frequently. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, if you guys want, super chat in some questions if you want.
Super chat in some stuff,
or...
and me and Nick get to whack this money out, and we don't have to split it with Rob if it's just the two of us. So,
but if you want to ask all your really good Catholic theology questions that Catholic answers will never answer, or if they're too afraid to answer, definitely ask us. So,
all right, so check this one out. Federal investigators seized the phone of NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban, sources say. The seizure was part of a separate investigation from one focused on the administration of the New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Federal investigators have seized the cell phone of the New York City Police Commissioner Edward Caban, according to people familiar with the matter. The details of the investigation were not immediately clear. A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney of the Southern District of New York, which is the most corrupt district, that's who's prosecuting Trump with everything.
Yeah,
they're the ones going after Trump, which is leading the probe, declined to comment. The department is aware of an investigation by the attorney's office. Caban, the city's first Latino commissioner, has been leading the department since July 2023. The seizure of his phone was part of a separate investigation from one focused on the administration of Mayor Adams. FBI agents on Wednesday searched the homes of multiple top officials close to Adams, including First Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright. So I know a few cops in New York City, and this police commissioner was organizing a walkout of the entire department if there were shenanigans with the election. So please seize this phone, okay? Something else strange that's been going on is for the past 4 days, my friend lives in Queens, and he's like, dude, this is the 4th day in a row. There's a helicopter hovering over Rikers. And the news is saying, let me see what he said. So he sent me that, and he said, NYPD commissioner's phone's taken because NYPD is planning a sick out the day they are scheduled to sentence Donald Trump. It was the day that's what it was. The day they were going to sentence Trump. It was scheduled for in a couple of days.
Yeah.
The NYPD, the commissioner, was planning a walkout the day they were going to sentence Trump. It wasn't the election. It was the day they were sentencing Trump. And there was a helicopter over Rikers Island for 4 days in a row. So like the whole theory was they're going to put Trump in prison, you know? And then all of a sudden this whole thing with the NYPD comes up, and then all of a sudden the judge postpones the sentencing until after the election.
November 26th. Yeah.
So that's that. I think they were in a position where, I think they were in a position where when they even convicted Trump, it wound up being the greatest fundraising moment in his entire campaign.
Yeah.
Every single time they go after this guy, they think it's going to have a certain effect, and it has the total opposite effect, and it just backfires in their face. You also had Steven Crowder released a video of somebody from the Southern District of New York talking about what the heck is his name that actually put the case together against Trump? I forgot. Alvin Bragg. Saying, I knew Alvin Bragg for 10 years. I've worked in the office with him. This guy, nobody knew who he was until he went after Trump. The guy's trying to make a name for himself. They just wanted to be able to say convicted felon Donald Trump. So they went after him at every angle they could. So this whole thing was just set up so that they could say convicted felon. Now, they probably had it in their heads like, all right, we'll give him a 2-week jail sentence, and then we'll just get the image of Trump in handcuffs being
in an orange jumpsuit doing
an orange jumpsuit with the handcuffs. But think about when they got the mugshot of him. Dude, he sold it on a t-shirt. Like these people don't realize every time they go after him, it's seen by us as they really want to go after us. They're just picking him.
Plus, the reality is just like on an optics perspective alone, if he was in an orange jumpsuit.
Whoa, Maureen's going full on Q over here. All right.
I found out that the right now believes everything is a false flag at this point. So,
well, this I've never even heard this one. This is pretty funny. I'd love to dive into that. They'll never put him in prison. It's all a show. I
don't believe that. In all honesty, I think that the system that tried to shoot him in the head is the same system that if they really thought that putting him in jail would work, then it would work. Because think of it this way: if it was just a show, right? Uh, would have known from the very beginning that by doing it in the beginning, it already benefits Trump. So why
I'll tell you
continue?
why I think they postponed the sentencing.
Mhm.
I think they postponed the sentencing because they're afraid he's going to win.
No, that's what I think too. I'm thinking my question when I saw that they postponed it was, okay, what's the angle here? Either A, they think Kamala's going to win, and so like why would that be kind of like shaming him even more post election? But then I thought, well, I don't know. Or B, in reality, he's going to win, and they're just like, yeah, let's just not do this. This just wouldn't work very well. But if he was to say get thrown in jail, just fantasize with me for a minute. If he was to get thrown in jail, wouldn't that be the most epic election night of all time? Cameras zoom in on Rikers. Trump walks out, snaps the ankle monitor off.
Let
I'm
me tell you
back,
something.
boys.
While,
That
while
would
we're
be
talking about
the greatest
election
thing.
night, because no matter what has transpired over the past 8 years, just remember back to that election night 2016, man. It was the greatest night ever. Like, I remember going to bed that night and being like, wait a minute, he's got a shot here. And I fell asleep and I woke up at 2 a.m. and it was all over the screens. Donald Trump is the president elect. And I just remember being like, are you kidding me? Like, it was just watching the meltdown, the screaming at the sky, the glass ceiling never got shattered, all of it. It was such an amazing moment to live through. There's a documentary on CNN about it, or not CNN, on Showtime. And it was like they were filming this documentary thinking that Hillary was going to win. So they were following the Hillary Clinton campaign around, and they have all this footage of just people, dude, to watch these people at the at the conference hall where Hillary Clinton was and watching them at the beginning of the night. They're all, whoa, yeah, we're gonna win, first woman president, yeah. As the night goes on, you just see their faces going, oh my god, and then the tears start going, and it's like, we're not supposed to glory in the in the downfall of our enemies, I guess, but it was, oh man, I'll never forget that night. It was such a, and even the next like month after, like until he became president, then once he became president, the probe started, the this started, the that, and it was like, but that lead up from November to till he got sworn in was just like the high that the whole conservative, it felt like it wasn't supposed to happen. It was like, wait, what's going on here? I don't get it.
It wasn't supposed to happen. I mean, I'll put this again as YouTube friendly as I can, but it's like there's truth to the fact that in a certain sense they do pick who is going to succeed in these endeavors, right? But Trump was the outlier. He was not supposed to get in, which is why they not just the people in the streets and Zhang Zhuger on the Young Turks, but the people actually in charge freaked out and did basically a 4-year persecution on the guy. This is partially why I can't really buy the whole notion of him being Trump, being this just deep state plant who, the Dems are just so intelligent. They're playing 4D chess and Trump is the deep state plant for us. I'm like, guys, the guy got shot in the head. He's been indicted how many times? Like 6
I think
times?
he could be an unwitting, like I said earlier in the show, like he is good for business for them. They get more done when he's in there because they rally their troops when he's in there,
Yeah, no, he would be the they would want him because they want to actually get some type of reform in their party. Because like right now, there's not a ton of like real interesting candidates over there or interesting policy positions. I mean, you look at people can go to Kamala Harris's website right now. Go to her website, you won't even find a policy platform. Like it's just
not
it's
one.
she's hiding.
But the other thing is, so I did too, right, Molly? And the thing is, Trump 2024 is not Trump 2016. Like he's not talking like he did back then. But I don't know if Trump 2016 could win in 2024. Like it was just a moment. It was a moment
he's
in
also
culture.
8 years older. He's
8 years older. He doesn't have that same, whatever. But dude, I go back and I watch some of those speeches, man, and I'm like, I want this guy to be president. Like some of the things he was saying just about building and what a prophetic thing build the wall was. It just sucks that he never did it. You know,
Well, I
that's
mean,
that's the other thing. Everybody gets so like the left gets so worked up over Trump. It's like he's not going to get half the things done that everybody's afraid he's going to get done. I wish he was the guy they all make him out to be.
yeah, I mean, to people out there, it's just like, I mean, why did he even not get a lot of the wall built? It was congressional Republicans refusing him to give money, right? The same
Yeah.
congressional Republicans who are also all pro-life, you know, they didn't actually care at the end of the day. That's the thing, is like at the end of the day, what Trump is he is a mild reformer. He's at best a return to like 1983 economic policy. He's a 90s Democrat in his social stuff. Is it great? No. Right. But it's way better than the alternative, which is to continue this machine. I mean, just again, daydream with me, guys. If Trump loses and Kamala gets into office, the Biden policies are going to be ramped up to 12. And so, what is the conversation going to be like next year on this show if Kamala Harris gets into office?
I don't think we'll ever talk politics again.
It's going to be horrible.
I don't think we'll ever talk politics again. Honestly, if this election doesn't go properly, I don't think I'll ever discuss politics again. Like, it'll just be done for me and I won't care. Molly, you want to freak out? Your birthday's today. We were 34 years old when Trump got elected president in 2016.
You were 34 years old, man.
34 years old. I was a young guy still.
I was 18. It was my first election. That was such a glorious night. I remember watching it. I stayed up the whole time until Trump won. I wanted to stay up and watch until Trump won. And
This is a great point. Trump wanted $9 billion to build the wall.
Yes.
We sent $200 billion over there.
Yeah, what it was, for people who need to know, is that it was $9 billion to build the wall here. Congressional Republicans said no to it. They said that's too expensive. And then after Trump leaves, we send over $100 billion to Ukraine. Insane.
I'll have to reach out to Vonda. Yeah. I would love to. Yeah, about how this. All right. So supporting the show. Yesterday, Rob mentioned the Commons. Vonda Radio would be a great guest for a longer conversation around how industrialization destroy families. Yeah, I think because yesterday we got into social engineering a little bit and just talking about how the industrial revolution itself broke families apart, because it used to be, we all talk about gender roles now, and it's like, well, the father should be out working. And it's like, that wasn't always the case. It was the father and the mother at the homestead working the homestead together. And there were gendered roles on the homestead, but the father wasn't like, it's not natural for me to be at work for 12 hours a day or 10 hours a day. No, that's unnatural. Yeah. I shouldn't have to do that. And that was the beginning of breaking up the family. So
it was,
I'll definitely reach out to them.
What's a shame though is it's like it's that situation of like returning to that type of lifestyle. Can it be done in the modern world? Yes. Is it likely to happen for the vast majority of people? No.
I do think a lot of people are given the opportunity now with remote jobs.
That is what I was going to say. It could be an exception. Yeah, that helps.
You know, like if I ever had an opportunity to have a remote job, let's put it this way. If this show ever got big enough that I could leave my job in New York, I would go homestead. I would leave New York and I would go homestead. I would just need to make, like, I don't need to make what I make in New York if I'm leaving New York. So if I ever got to a point like, you know, like right now, what me and Rob are doing, it's like, oh, okay, I get to buy groceries. Like that's the kind of money we're making. Like you have to, I don't know how people make real money podcasting. I think most of the guys that do this, that actually make a living doing it, they're not making their money from the podcasting itself. Like you look, even somebody, Taylor Marshall, Tim Gordon, Kennedy Hall, first off, their shows are infinitely bigger than mine, but they're also writers. And I think most of their money comes from being authors, selling their books, things like that. You know, their main source of income isn't this. So
exactly. Yeah, I agree.
I gotta be honest. If the Russians offered me $100,000 a month,
but yeah, it's $100,000 a month.
Just Russian propaganda for $100,000 a month. I'd spew it before Democrat propaganda. I don't know.
They were,
right?
Well, even the sad thing was like they weren't even. It didn't even sound like they were asking to say Russian propaganda.
That's what I mean.
Like they were just saying like their own conservative spiels, and I was like, I don't care where the money comes from.
Yeah, like you think about those guys where they're coming from, and it's like, okay, somebody's offering me $100,000 a week for licensing. Like, come on. I'll be honest, it would be hard to turn down $250,000 a year to work for Daily Wire.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, see, here's the thing. I mean, like the Daily Wire, for all of its many faults, which people fault it for, it's like if the Daily Wire was just to actually go back to, what it kind of gave the appearance of, which was like a more, if you will, for lack of better words, free speech platform for all different kinds of conservative values. Yeah, if they wanted to hire us, that'd be epic.
Yeah,
That'd be
so look, my issue with the Daily Wire is one, Ben Shapiro's Zionism is one, right? The other is they are
make it
straight up
happen, y'all.
yeah, straight up feminist propaganda. So if you think about the movies that Daily Wire came out with, they're like, no more woke stuff, no more woke stuff. Then they make a movie about a school shooter and the girl is the protagonist hero. And it's like
It's again a lot of it's like the conservative DEI stuff. That's
you
what
just
it is.
came up with like the conservative badass chick.
We want, guys, Daily Wire. If anyone out there works for them or huge Daily Wire fans as context, this is what we want, right? We want a 1980s movie where it's a white straight male who just goes in and saves the girl, right? We want basically Star Wars New Hope. We want Star Wars New Hope, all of his buddies. We want the boys out there. That's what we want.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I think this is my biggest issue with the Daily Wire. It's not even like I adore Matt and Knowles, Matt Walsh and
Yeah,
Michael
they're both
Knowles.
they're both good.
I love both of them. I think they're both phenomenal talent. I really like I love both of them. I think they're great. I'm not a fan of Ben Shapiro. I can't stand that Brett Cooper chick. Jeremy Boring is just whatever. I don't care, but the media they're putting out is what I take issue with, and it's because it is legitimate feminist propaganda. They even like the Gina Carano situation. Gina Carano gets fired from Disney. Oh, let's go get another badass chick and let's put her in a movie. It's like I'm tired of seeing these feminist movies. I want to be able to put something on where the man is not seen as a clown. I want the man to be Aragorn, and I want the woman to have a feminine role. I want the woman to resemble Our Lady. And I want it to be a beautiful thing, not the woman is a battered woman or some slave of the man. I want her humility to show through. What I really think our modern world is missing is we don't recognize humility as beautiful anymore. So every time they put a female character in something, she resembles the alpha male, but not even the Christ-like alpha male. They're putting the meathead, juicehead alpha male, the toxic masculinity thing, because there is a such thing as toxic masculinity. The frat boy dude, like that's garbage. That's not what you want to see. You want to see an actual man who acts like one, and
They basically take
Christ-like.
like the worst archetype of like the 1980s dad or the 1980s dude, and then they say that that's what the woman should be now, and then it's fine. So masculinity bad, but if the woman's masculine, then it's fine. I think that people need to remember Isaiah chapter 3 talks about it's the only instance in scripture where you see women talked about in the context of leadership roles. Isaiah chapter 3, I believe it is. It's 3 or 5, but it's basically as a judgment. God sends it as a judgment because men are so bad. They are lacking so badly that women are basically just in control. And so it's like if we were to have a movie where women are in like a knightly archetype or something like that, it should only be in some type of scenario, like for instance, Saint Joan of Arc. The guy was a coward. He wasn't doing what he needed to do, and so God rose up a woman as kind of a rebuke, right? It's like
Yeah.
almost like Deborah from the Bible. He raises him up as kind of a rebuke, not to trash femininity, but to say, you guys just suck at being dudes, and I'm needing to get this job done. And so I'm raising up a woman to kind of like humiliate what you guys should be doing. I think if the Daily Wire was to do that, that'd be pretty epic. Overall, I'm like, it's a better alternative, but it's again kind of like the voting thing. It's like, is it better than Hollywood? Absolutely. Is it still pretty cringe? Yeah, but we can at
Yeah,
least deal
look,
with
I
it.
think another stereotype I even fall into at times is the temperament stereotype. So like I'm I can't, it's hard to not always compare my marriage to other marriages, right? So my wife is very soft spoken. Like my wife's not obnoxious. Like my wife is not like um she's not like other YouTubers' wives. I'll just leave it there. She's not like in your face like that, right? But I do think there are situations where the wife does have more of an A-type personality and the husband's more of a B-type personality, where, you know, maybe she's more of the go-getter and stuff like that. Like, there are situations like that that I tend to not take into account when I talk about this stuff, I guess. So I probably should think about that a little more before I just spew off my misogyny.
It is fair, just because it's like, yeah, I mean, not all women are alike, not all men are alike. And sometimes that's the thing. Like, you can be a really strong type B male, right? It's just you're more quiet and reserved, but like when you need to take the authoritative role, you do. And maybe you are the chatty Cathy, you know, lady out there who just likes to, you know, get stuff done, but you need to learn that. That's part of just mortification and getting into the proper order.
Can you, through mortification, actually change your temperament?
Yeah, no, so your temperament changes over time. And so, like, whatever you guys are right now, you guys will change over time throughout different experiences, for good or for ill. But through mortification, ideally, through proper mortification, you'll become a perfect blend of all four. So much so that the saints talk about how one key aspect of, you know, that this person you're talking to is a saint, is you don't even know what their temperament is. It's just such a perfect blend of all four that you're like, I could see you as all four. I legitimately don't know. That's the idea.
If I was in a TV show, I'd be much more like Tony Soprano, Joe. Like, Raymond always drove me nuts because he had that whiny thing. His wife wore the pants in the house, the annoying mother-in-law around. And he was like, he was just whiny. I know you're joking, but it's just, yeah. I was never a fan of that show. But all right, man, we're gonna wrap this up. Yeah, I was never a fan either, Jacob. I mean, it was one of those shows, like, so I would come home after, like, going out at night with my friends. I'd come home and it would be Seinfeld, Raymond, and then The Honeymooners. And I love The Honeymooners and I love Seinfeld. Those are my two shows. The Honeymooners, I still love that show.
I never watched almost any of those shows, to be honest, because I was the homeschool kid.
Yeah.
I was sheltered.
That's a good idea, Brandon. It's a very good idea.
That would be good. I mean, if you guys want, I mean, I think we should try to get RFK on. Like, he said that he basically goes on every podcast. I'm like, it's big enough that we could
We'd
just
have to ask Patrick. We'll ask Patrick how he got him. You know, I mean, look, he's going to be very busy right now, but maybe we could plan. Maybe if we got him and just say, hey, we'll take you 5 months out, you know?
Take you 5 months out. If you happen to get into a certain office, we will come there. Like, I will fly up to DC. No problem.
I would love to press him on his Catholicism a little bit, man.
Same, because, you know, it's like, for how based he is, he's like a lot of normie NO Catholics, where it's just like, yeah, you know, separation of church and state, private religion, public, other thing, you know. So it'd be kind of interesting. Straight to the moon and where we landed.
Yeah, Mike Cher's been trying to get RFK for a while. Well, I know Patrick Coffin has interviewed RFK 4 times. So if we got an in, it's going to be that way.
Or maybe what we could do is just ask Patrick to interview him and then just say that he's bringing along 3 other interviewees.
That's a good point, Joe. Uncle Phil was like a man, you know?
Yeah, that's a good example. Uncle Phil is an iconic dude.
Yeah, he was a virtuous man. Like, he took care of his nephew. He wasn't a beta. His wife didn't cuck him out every episode. I was actually a good father. Of course, It's in a black family because they can't make a white man look like that, but you know.
Well, it's actually a really good example, just because it's like, what's the most famous scene from that entire series for the most part? One of them is like when the biological dad, basically walks out and abandons his son. And so Uncle Phil, he
grabs him and hugs him.
Yeah, he comes and hugs him. And then I forget if it's in that episode or if it's another one, but he basically gives that spiel of, like, you know, a man works hard, provides for his family, basically all the good traditional moral values. And he gives that spiel to them. And so, yeah, that's a good example. But yeah, modern film, it's ridiculous. I mean, just the amount of absolute hatred toward men at the moment is insane.
Yeah, we're in a rough time, man. There's not many role models for our kids to watch and stuff like that. So Carlton was a strange character on that show.
Basically, modern society has one of 2 guys to pick. We either got Andrew Tate or we got Dylan Mulvaney. Those are the 2 extremes.
That's really is it. That's the spectrum of what we see in the culture portrayed.
And so, so people wonder why so many people pick Andrew Tate. It's just like, it's because
I
alternative.
understand it. Yeah. But, like, look, Andrew Tate is a symptom of the culture. He's not a cause of it. He's a symptom of it, right? He's you see these guys look out and they're just like, what is wrong with you? Men aren't men anymore. And it's like, no, they're not. But Andrew Tate's a Muslim, and that's not the route to follow. And he's running through women and mistreating women and stuff like that. Is toxic masculinity. That's him just mistreating women and using them for pleasure. And he doesn't have an ounce of virtue in him. So
no, exactly. And that's just the sad thing. But it's like, how do you, I mean, we have to do this, Anthony. We have to have a full conversation on the church specifically failing young men. Because the thing is, I'm scratching my head is it's like, okay, I see a lot of normie Catholic influencers who are finally starting to catch up on to Tate 3 years, 4 years later into the conversation. They're finally starting to talk about this stuff, but they're giving the tired 1980s basically qua feminism responses of just like, don't be sexist against women. And if you question your masculinity, maybe you're just not looking in the right place. I'm like, dude, where in the Catholic Church right now do you see masculinity?
There's a desperate. Well, I'll tell you, man, it comes down to having effeminate priests too, or not even just effeminate priests, feminized priests. Like most of the priests you see aren't masculine men. It's like, I think that's why people love Father Mike Schmidt so much, because he comes off as a man. He doesn't come off, even though he's soft spoken and he's very, in touch, he still looks like a man. Like he's an attractive guy. He's a man. Father Maudsley, absolutely. So like I think when people see a masculine priest who's definitely not playing around with the other side, with that attraction, it's very attractive even to men, because men do want to follow a good man. It's not just women who follow a man.
I want to see an interview, a joint interview or chat or whatever with Father Mike Schmitz and then Father Isaac.
Yeah, Father Isaac's another one, right? That's why everybody loves Father Isaac. Yeah, if anybody hasn't watched our series with Father Maudsley, we did 3 episodes with him, and they are all phenomenal. All 3 are phenomenal. They're some of my favorite episodes. So if you guys have not watched our Father, they're all timeless. I know what you're saying. He's soft spoken, but I don't mean like that. I don't. Like, yeah, he's soft on certain issues too. He's a mutual submission guy. I know what you're saying, but he still comes off as a man. He comes off as a heterosexual man, is all I'm saying. Like, where you can't say that for most priests.
No. And it's like, and you guys all know this, I'm a trad, but it's just like a lot of trad priests, they don't come off as non-homosexual, but they come off as just like so hyper nerdy and up in the scholastic tower, and like they're just like kind of almost nervous Nellies around people. Like Father Isaac is a good example of a priest who's just a man's man. Father Ripperger, obviously man's man, right? He's great. I would just love to see one of those 2 priests or both have a conversation with a more normie priest like Father Mike Schmitz, because those could you picture Father Isaac just being like in his very thick Italian accent, just being like, yeah, what is going on right now with these horrible confessions? They're like, you're not even giving grave penances for grave sins. What's going on? It would just be amazing to watch.
Jacob, if you're new to the channel, so we have a playlist up that's like the best of playlist. We've had Father Isaac on. We've had Father Maudsley on. Father Isaac had over for dinner. We did a live in-person show at my house.
Yeah.
We've had if you go through that playlist, like if you're new to the channel, go check out our best of playlist. We only put stuff in there that's like not time sensitive, so it's not like a current events thing. And some of those episodes are really out of this world. I've seen Father Ripper in person, and it's so funny because he has such a masculine presence, but he's like 5'3".
How tall are you, Anthony? I was wondering that.
5'9".
5'9". Oh, I'm taller than you. What?
Yeah. I'm 5'9". I don't care how tall I am, because my wife's only 5'1", and I'm happy with that.
That's fair. I saw you, like, there's that old clip of you and Rob hugging each other, right? Like,
he towers over me. Rob's tall.
And I'm looking at you guys, and I'm like, wait, you guys like kind of generally look the same height.
Nah, Rob's tall. You know who else is tall? Mark. Mark's like 6'4".
Yeah, Mark, I believe that. Yeah,
Mark is 6'4". Jason's a runt. Jason's like 5'5". No, he's 5'7". 5'8" even. He's probably 5'8", but I always tell him he's short. He goes nuts.
All right, y'all. Well, go find my Twitter account. If you guys can find my Twitter account,
I want you to follow me. I won't blow your spot. I won't tell anybody.
Yeah, I'll follow Anthony, and then you guys can try to figure out which one it is.
Yeah, so he only follows Donald Trump and Anthony, and that's how you'll know.
That's your clue.
All right, guys. This was fun, man. If you guys want, we'll see if me and Nick can do a couple more of these political conversations in the future. We'll see how it goes. Definitely before the election, we will. Like,
Yeah,
for
give
sure.
predictions, throw up the maps and all that fun jazz.
Yeah, so all right, let's see. What is this one? That's not a song. Wait, I gotta find a song. What should we close out with? How about this?